You know, they say history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. These patterns of power, of influence, of who gets to build the world and who holds the blueprint, well, these things tend to echo through time. And today, we're going to chase down one of those echoes. It's a story that starts with a single, powerful family and ends with a global, algorithmic empire. Okay, so picture this. It's 1875. The British Empire is the biggest thing on the planet, but it's got a problem. The Suez Canal, this brand new, essential artery for global trade, is suddenly up for sale. The Prime Minister, a guy named Benjamin Disraeli, needs £4 million, a totally insane amount of money back then. And he needs it like yesterday. There's no time to ask Parliament. So what does he do? He doesn't go to the Bank of England. He makes one phone call to a private family bank, the Rothschilds. And just like that, the deal is done. Now, let's jump to today. There is a different kind of empire being built. Its foundations aren't canals dug out of the desert, but the digital and physical infrastructure that our entire world runs on. And one firm, BlackRock, is making a massive play to own those very foundations. We're talking everything from the ports that ship our stuff, to the grids that power our homes, to the funds that are literally going to rebuild entire countries. The scale is way bigger, but that ambition, that feels awfully familiar. So here's the big idea we're digging into. That 19th century Rothschild playbook, the one they used to get all that power and influence, it isn't just some dusty old history lesson. It's a blueprint built on three key pillars that's being dusted off, modernized, and scaled up by BlackRock. They're basically taking a family strategy and turning it into an algorithm. This quote right here, it just nails it. The Rothschilds' real power wasn't just about having a ton of money. It was about how they used that money as a lever. They weren't just collecting gold. They were using it to decide the fate of nations, funding both sides of wars and then funding the peace that came after. All right, let's break down this blueprint. Pillar number one, and maybe the most important, information. You see, before you can control the money, you have to control the information. It was the absolute foundation of power back then, and it's the foundation of power now. The tools have just changed. A lot.
The patriarch, a man named Mayer Amschel Rothschild, had this genius idea. Instead of keeping everything in one place, he sent his 5 sons, they called them the 5 arrows, out to the financial capitals of Europe. London, Paris, Vienna, you get the picture. They then built their own private network of couriers that was faster than any kings or governments. This gave them an insane advantage. They knew what was happening before anybody else, and they used that little gap in knowledge to make a fortune.
And if you want the perfect example of their edge, just look at the Battle of Waterloo. A Rothschild courier got the news of Napoleon's defeat to London a full 24 hours before the official government messenger. Think about that. In a time with no internet, no telegraph, knowing the outcome of a battle that would define the century a full day early, that wasn't just an advantage, that was basically a license to print money. So how does that translate to today? Well, BlackRock's courier network isn't made of people on horseback. It's made of code and data. Meet Aladdin. And you gotta understand, this isn't just some fancy software. People describe it as the digital nervous system for the entire global financial world. It's the brain of BlackRock's empire, designed to see everything, everywhere, all at once. And here's where the scale just becomes mind-blowing. The Rothschilds had an information advantage of ours. Aladdin has an advantage of, well, processing data on over $21 trillion worth of assets. It's the exact same principle. Information is power, but it has evolved from a 24-hour head start into a real-time, all-seeing algorithmic eye. Okay, on to pillar number 2 of the blueprint, the pivot. After all those wars in Europe, the Rothschilds took their profits and pivoted. They stopped just financing conflict and started financing the Industrial Revolution. And today, BlackRock is making a very similar pivot, moving from just financing markets to financing, well, the physical world itself. I mean, look at this. The parallel is just crystal clear. The Rothschilds put their money into the railways, the mines, the canals, the very bones of the 19th century. Now, BlackRock is positioning itself to fund post-war reconstruction in places like Ukraine, and, get this, to own the essential monopolies of our time. The ports, the power grids, the water systems. And this isn't just talk. This is happening right now. BlackRock has already signed a deal to run Ukraine's development fund. They're positioning themselves to lead one of the biggest rebuilding efforts in modern history. And with their recent purchase of global infrastructure partners, they instantly became one of the biggest infrastructure owners in the world. For them, Ukraine is almost like a test case. for what could be a very profitable future in rebuilding the world.
And that brings us to the third and final pillar, influence. Both the Rothschilds and BlackRock became what you might call kingmakers, but the way they wield that power and how we see it, well, that could not be more different.
For centuries, the Rothschilds' power was seen as this shadowy force working behind the scenes. Their secrecy, their incredible wealth, it fueled all sorts of myths and conspiracy theories. It made them seem like these hidden puppeteers, pulling the strings of governments from dark, smoke-filled rooms. BlackRock, though, they're kingmakers right out in the open. Their influence doesn't come from secret deals. It comes from their massive ETFs. Those funds that just automatically buy up shares in tons of companies. And because BlackRock holds all those shares for millions of investors, they control the voting rights. Now, owning 4% of Walmart or 8% of UPS might not sound like a controlling stake, but when you're one of the biggest voters in almost every major company, that gives you a huge say in everything. This quote from the tycoon Sam Zell just says it all, doesn't it? While the Rothschilds were wrapped up in mystery, BlackRock's CEO Larry Fink has so much recognized power that other billionaires are openly debating and complaining about it. The power isn't a secret anymore. It's the headline. So when we step back and look at the whole picture, what do we really see? It's not that history is repeating itself perfectly. No, it's more like we're seeing a profound evolution of the exact same principles of power and control. The blueprint is the same, but the tools are from a different century. Information supremacy went from human couriers on fast horses to an algorithm that sees trillions. Financing the world went from funding a single canal to owning the systems that connect the globe. And the kingmaker's hand has moved from the secret halls of power to the public corporate boardroom. And all of this leaves us with one really big question. The Rothschilds built a dynasty of blood, family, and capital. Today, firms like BlackRock are building empires of data and algorithms. So are we simply watching the next chapter in how power gets concentrated? The final evolution from powerful families to all-powerful algorithms? When you look at the blueprint, it's getting harder and harder to argue that we're not.